So I bet you have been through a launch already. You have experienced a webinar that you signed up for, or maybe you bought an online course or an online coaching program. And even if you've done that, when you sit down to create your first online course launch, it can be overwhelming trying to figure out what are all the pieces you need to have in place and how does all this fit together. That's what we're gonna walk through today. I'm gonna walk you through how to create your launch and what needs to be included in it so that you can see what you're creating. So I bet you have experienced a launch. You have been to a free webinar, you've received some emails, maybe you bought an online course or an online coaching program. And even when you've done that, it can still be confusing and a bit overwhelming when you sit down to create your own online course launch. I know that was the case for me. I had bought many different programs before, and still when I sat down to start to work on it, I was easily getting confused about what the flow looks like. So I want to share with you today, what is a launch? Okay, what is the flow? How are you moving people from discovery all the way to enrollment in your program? So I'm a visual person, as you guys know, so I really believe that if you can map this out visually and you can see what you're creating, you're going to be able to organize the way that you get this done much faster. So the first thing that happens is that you got to keep in mind that in your launch, people are discovering you. So there's going to be a part of what you're doing in your launch, which is generating traffic. This might mean that you're going to create some Facebook ads, a post that you're going to post on Facebook. Maybe you're going to shoot a little video on your phone. Part of what you're organizing is how am I going to create content that I'm going to put out there and it's going to start to bring people into my launch. That's the first piece that they experience. They then come in and they move over here. And what I recommend is that you're inviting them off of social media or off of your email list into opting in for a webinar. So they're going to have an invitation. They're going to go to a page and they're going to say, wow, this webinar sounds great. I'm going to sign up. And they put their email address in and now they're on your list and they're planning to attend your webinar. Planning to attend is the key there, right? Because people plan to attend, but they don't show up. And one of the first things you're going to need to manage in your launch, and you can see the little email icon I have here, you're going to send emails between the time people sign up and the time they actually show up in your webinar. So those emails, we call them show emails, very creative, I know, but we call them show emails, and those emails are really content-rich emails to remind people that, hey, I definitely need to go to this webinar. This is going to be good. I remember why I signed up. They come to your webinar, and the webinar is another piece of content you're creating in your launch, right? They come into your webinar, they experience you as a guide, you teach, and it's, compelling, they're excited. And at the end you say, okay, at the end of this webinar, if you want to work with me in my course, come on over to my sales page. And you invite them to go over to your sales page. So they move from the webinar to the sales page. The sales page is essentially an information page about your offer, about your online course. It could be about your online course plus a coaching program. And they see all the information on there they need to make a decision. But guess what? Not everybody makes a decision. And this is something nobody told me, right, about this. But the first time that I launched, when I did a webinar, I expected that everybody would race from the webinar to the sales page and sign up, right? And that did not happen. I was very discouraged. And I continued though after that to start to send what we call closing emails. So you're sending emails after people experienced your webinar, went to the sales page, but they didn't buy. And those emails were really based on thinking through what are the objections the audience would have, right? So what stories can you tell? What information can you provide to help them overcome their objections? And I continued to send those emails. And what was amazing to me is that the final deadline for enrollment, which was the night that the course was closing and gee, we're going to get started tomorrow, was when the vast majority of the enrollments came in. Like 80% of the people waited to the last couple of hours to enroll. So one thing I learned really quickly in that first launch is that when you're building your launch, everything is important. This is not a buffet. You don't get to pick and choose which parts you want to do. You really have to have all those pieces in place because, in my first launch, if I had quit after that sales page, the first webinar, nobody bought anything, and not continue to send emails, I would have missed the opportunity to work with all those people. So it's important that you have all the pieces in place. So to recap the way this flows, you're going to be thinking about what are all the ways that I can get in front of my audience? You know, how can I generate traffic, whether that's through my list, through partner lists, through ads. I'm going to send them to a webinar and I'm going to get their email address. I'm going to send them emails to get them to show up for the webinar. They're going to come to the webinar, and at the end, I'm going to invite them to go to my sales page. And if they don't buy right away, I'm going to continue to send them emails to really help them navigate through whatever decisions they have to make to do the work with you. And every time you send an email, you're going to be sending them back to your sales page. So thinking about this flow, you know, put it up on your wall, think about the flow of how you're moving people through so that when you're sitting down to write those emails, you can really think about, okay, where is this person right now? What do they need to hear to take the next step? So I hope this is helpful in planning your launch. Any questions you have, feel free to share in the comments. And I'm excited that you're launching and putting your work out there. So cheers to that.